Welcome to Soundbite, the podcast where we talk to interesting people in the Maritimes about their stories and current issues. I'm Caitlin Dutt, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Tim Porter. Okay, well, another week's gone by.
Yes,
How are you,
has.
Caitlin?
I'm good. You know, I'm just glad that the heat has finally seemed to have broken a little bit.
Yes.
We had that rainstorm. I know that you didn't get to experience it because you were up by the lakes.
Right.
But it was a heavy downpour for about an hour.
Yeah, that's good for the forest fires anyway.
Yeah. And no lightning strikes either, at least in this area of town.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Yeah. So we've got a little lightning of our own today. We've got our old friend Paul Harpelle with us from Elections, New Brunswick.
Hello.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for coming on our show today.
I'll save my pleasure for now. We're just starting.
Do it. Exactly. Got 40 minutes ahead of us. Who knows what could happen?
Well, I've known Paul since, I don't know when, probably, I would say the 1990s, certainly, but I don't know if it drifted into the 80s, but probably the 90s.
How old were you when you both met each other?
I would hazard to guess. What we were, but we were much, much younger and working in journalism. So maybe we'll get into a bit of that in overtime on what life was like in the 90s, the roaring 90s.
The 90s. I think that's like the most optimistic decade to the past, maybe century.
and for journalism, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Everything felt so hopeful back then.
Caitlin likes that decade because she was born in that decade. So
yeah.
We weren't.
Yes.
That's okay.
We weren't born
no
yesterday.
Judgment.
We weren't born yesterday. So, Paul, you're here with Elections New Brunswick, and I guess we wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of your work that you do. We've had a provincial election last year, and we've got a municipal election next spring.
Yeah, busy time for you guys.
And sandwiched in between that, we've got a by-election pending in Miramichi region.
Yeah.
What's the riding again?
Miramichi West.
West, yes. And so we've got a couple of declared candidates, but the by-election isn't really started yet, but you must be preparing already, are you not, Paul?
100%. In fact, the returning officer who will run the by-election for us has already been hired. He was with us in 2024, so he's trained. He's already staffed up his returning office, and I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday, we actually shipped from our warehouse in Fredericton the material that he will need to open up an office and set up polling station when the time comes for the Premier to tell us when the election will take place, by-election. So we are fully prepared and.
Right. So we know it has to be this fall. There's kind of a set.
There is now
prescription on when you have to do that, but the Premier has some latitude as to when to call it, and so we're waiting for the Premier to do that, and we probably expect her to do that within probably the next month or so.
Yeah, I think the deadline is September 25th to set the date.
Yeah, the MLA who was elected and headed off to Ottawa, his resignation was official on March 25th. So then that triggered the 6-month countdown.
Right.
And some would recall that before then, the 6 months was indecisive on exactly when the Premier would have to call the election, but the legislation was changed by Premier Gallant, and so now it is specific to the date has to be set within that 6-month window, so September 25th, and then the range is 28 days to 38 days, and that's what we'll have to contend with once the order in council is issued.
So I know Paul you don't get into the politics of this, but the Liberals do have 31 seats in the legislature currently, and I'm not sure how many the Conservatives have, 16 or 15, I guess. the balance. What I'm trying to say is the balance of power is not in play with this by-election. It's simply kind of momentum and seeing which party can kind of jockey into position here.
The Liberals have a majority
right.
either
and
way.
that won't change. That won't change as a result of this particular by-election.
So we've got two candidates, just to form it up for our listeners. We've got two candidates declared. The Liberals have Hannah Fulton and
the PCs have Kevin Russell.
Gavin Russell, who's the mayor of Miramichi River...
It's River Valley.
Valley,
So he was actually acclaimed as mayor.
Right. What is Miramichi River Valley? What's that encompass? Do you happen to know, Paul?
I'm not the geography guy, so...
What communities that entails? Maybe it's Blackville, is it? Or...
I'm not quite sure, but I do know that Hannah Fulton Johnson, she's a resident of Doketown.
Oh, okay.
So, and actually, the Liberals hosted the most recent New Brunswick Day celebrations in Doketown. So that leads me to think probably a political move on their part.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So back to Paul here. So Paul, you're getting ready for this by-election, and that's great. And then I guess we've got the municipal election to look forward to.
Yeah, those local government elections are not that far away now. When, for most people, May of 2026 seems like quite a distance down the road. But for us, we have already been planning for months to make sure we are completely organized for that, because that will be a province-wide event. We have fewer municipalities now that are, I think it's been restructured to 77.
And then they're new entities a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the 12 district rural communities that have been formed as well. So it's going to be, all of them will be in play this particular election.
Can people run for those too?
Yeah, and the other point I guess we should make is that those elections will also include the district education councils, because they've also always been aligned with our municipal elections.
Right.
So those will also be taking place at the same time, which is May 11th of 2026.
Yeah. Are participation levels good, Paul? Like I know in past we used to hear that maybe the education councils don't get as many people for them, or back when we had health council, it was kind of the same thing. But.
Unfortunately, I think it'd be fair to say that there are quite a few acclamations, and that's people being elected because they went uncontested.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the beast. And then in the case of the district education councils, if there are vacancies remaining, it is the minister who has the role to fill those vacancies across the province. For us, if there are any local government vacancies remaining, then that puts us in the position of having to plan for by-elections. And so if that's in May, it'll likely be October later that year.
Okay, so if someone wants to run for one of these bodies, what's the process of that, Paul?
Well, I mean, the returning office itself will not open until sometime, let me see, it'll be in March, thereabouts. It opens up March, April.
Yes.
And that's the first time that a candidate can walk in and actually hand in their nomination papers. Okay. What I hope is going to be happening in advance of that is an effort to encourage people to consider running, because it's not a decision that one takes 2 weeks before the election kicks off. You've got some soul searching to do. You got to look at your schedule. You got to maybe talk it over with your family. So
it's a big commitment.
Yeah, so we're hoping that sometime starting maybe in December, early in the new year, there will be some conversations that will take place, encouraging people to consider the idea of putting their hat in the ring and running for these important positions.
Right.
Our role, as I mentioned to Caitlin in our pre-conversation, we're really focused on the get out the vote component.
Yeah, so that's the other side of it. So you got to get people to run, but then you got to get people to actually vote for these people. So what do our participation rates look like in terms of voting?
Well, voting, it's interesting. Sometimes it depends on the specific community, and if there happens to be a dynamic candidate that has captured attention, or if there's a hot button issue that is driving the discussion in that community. So it is
a motivator.
It is a bit up and down. We have seen sort of the trend that if in the case of a community the mayor is acclaimed, it kind of takes a bit of the wind out of the sails because the attention is now lessened.
Right.
And again, the other trend that, the stats I think will bear it out, in the Francophone communities, they tend to be more passionate about their politics and their participation. So it's not surprising to see in some of our Francophone communities the level of participation climb.
I see.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I just know this stat because, or a fact, or because we'd had a discussion recently about this. St. John is one of the areas where, unfortunately, participation in the municipal races and even in the provincial tends to be a little on the lower side.
Suppressed.
Yeah. So there's a lot of factors that play into that. The other reality that I guess all the communities face is getting media coverage has changed. The dynamic of the local media presence is different. Tim would be able to go back to the days when if you picked up the Daily Gleaner, they would be doing pretty in-depth profiles of contests that were taking place in different communities. It's harder to get that ink and coverage now. And that does change because people, a common concern or a comment we see is people going, I don't know anything about these candidates.
Right.
And unless they are running their own very active
Facebook group or get on a Facebook group or
there's that profile has changed dramatically.
Certainly.
We offer now, it's again to try to help address that, a candidate who decides to run has the option of providing us a link to an external Facebook page they have, or some of them get creative and open up a website,
right?
Or you could throw up your Yahoo email account and let people communicate that way.
Right.
But that is one of the challenges.
Okay.
There are fewer communities, but they have now covered. A lot of them cover a lot of greater territory. Like the Grand Lake is now you have Chipman and you have Minto and you have those communities involved.
So, how does that impact like Election New Brunswick in terms of the Get Out the Vote campaign then?
It doesn't really. Our target is the entire province. So in a province-wide election, we will hit hard all the. We hit the radio stations. We're getting more adept at using social media because part of the challenge is in my job as director of communications and outreach is finding out where are people tuning in for their information. And the one thing we know that people count on is when they get their voter information card, and that's a piece of the election campaign that is important. But in front of that, it's trying to design new tools and vehicles for getting that message out.
Can we count on the mail, Paul? I don't know.
Let's just say that we are working on a contingency plan,
right?
Because we saw it in other jurisdiction during their provincial election in Nova Scotia. They made the decision not to send out their voter information cards,
right?
And there was quite a bit of a backlash, especially amongst the older audience,
right?
We have to get to a time and place, much like your boarding pass or your movie theater or concert tickets.
Paul's holding up his cell phone, by the way.
You get them on your smartphone. People are young people like Caitlin are used to doing that. And I think that's where we have to go, which kind of takes out potentially the need for Canada Post.
Right.
Because Canada Post it's $1.24 every envelope we send.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I guess that's
true. So, you talk 300,000 households. I mean, you can't, as a former New Brunswick MLA and then senator once said, you can't put a price on democracy. But you do get a bill.
Okay. There is a bill related with
that must be Percy Mockler. I can't imagine it being anyone else. But
yeah,
so we talked a little bit earlier prior to this conversation about misinformation regarding elections and disinformation on social media. And, a report from Foreign Interference Inquiry, like federally last year, had said that, or earlier this year, not sure, said disinformation was like the single biggest risk to our democracy. So what are you doing in terms of fighting that?
So it is something that, pan-Canadian election management bodies like ours have had discussions, conferences we've attended, where this has become sort of front and center as sort of the new target, the new challenge that we have to prepare, to take on and be prepared for. If I go back to the 2024 provincial general election, we really saw no evidence, and there was nothing reported to us of any efforts to influence the election outcome or within the political parties themselves. We're a smaller player. We fully expect Elections Canada will see that kind of action before us.
Maybe not New Brunswick yet.
But we can't not be prepared. And so I go back to the 2018 provincial general election. We actually ran a campaign that we were encouraging people to check the facts. We produced these 15-second commercials that ran across the various networks, and it would use the idea of that the Loch Ness monster was spotted in the Miramichi, and the people on camera go, true? And
it actually sounds true.
Yeah. And
it rings true to me.
The voiceover person would go, no, not true, and then set the message, check the facts. So fact checking is something that is constantly being, encouraged by our chief electoral officer and any opportunities that she has. We are now working on a series of videos. We've produced the first 5, which we used in October of last year, where we are now actually showing people the way that the elections are run, sort of taking them behind the curtains and showing. So we send out the tabulation machines. How do they work? And we talk about the logic and accuracy testing that each of these units goes through before they are deployed. And then we talk about the fact that after every election, an audit is done on ballots that were put through the machine in each of the electoral districts to validate the results that were reported on election night. So the term you often hear is sort of showing them how the sausage is made. Mm-hmm. And we need to do more of these explainer videos to educate people on and demystify. So when an agency or a political activist tries to target the outcome of the election by questioning the processes and procedures, we are hoping that the electors who have had the opportunity to see these videos will be able to self-check and go, no, I actually saw a video from Election New Brunswick that debunks that. So this pre-bunking campaign we're actually now in production for another set of 5 videos. We put them through a study with the University of Ottawa. They showed them to individuals even before we ran the campaign. There was a one group that saw the videos and a second group, a control group, that did not see the videos. And we wanted to find out what the impact would be on these 2 sets. So the University of Ottawa did that study for us. And the conclusion was that for those who had been shown the videos, there was an increased confidence in the integrity of the processes and of the agency. So we took that as a good indicator that this is a positive approach. It's really not that expensive, and you don't want to sort of just take hope that you don't become a target.
Right. Yeah.
Have you been a target? Like, have people seriously challenged your results?
No. And the interesting thing, Tim and Caitlin, is that New Brunswick has been on the leading edge in technology. We used the tabulation machines for the first time 2008 in municipal elections.
Yes.
They actually were piloted in 2006 in St. John, New Brunswick, because St. John had a crazy long ballot with all the people that were running. It was as long as an arm.
Right.
So they piloted them there. We introduced them municipally 2008 and then provincially 2010. And people are very comfortable. with that. There are no one has raised questions when they've come in and cast their ballot. Mm-hmm. We went through an issue where, and this was related more to training than the technology, people had been trained not to out a person if you mark no name on your ballot, there is an alert that is, and that's to ensure that somebody doesn't inadvertently lose their vote because they forgot to mark their ballot or overvote. And so the training is to discreetly indicate to the elector the machine has detected an alarm or an error. Do you want the opportunity to redo your ballot, or do you want the machine to accept it as is?
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have the same system for the municipal and the provincial elections.
Yep.
And it's different than the federal process, is it?
If anyone voted in the recent federal election, it's still very much a paper-based. Yeah. You walk through the door, and the list of electors is still on a large list, and the individual has to go through, and they get their ruler out, and So with us now, we're at the stage where we have poll pads at the entranceway. You bring your voter information card. It's got a barcode on it that is unique and individual to you.
Right.
We scan it. The worker scans it. I don't do it. And your information populates the screen of that iPad.
Okay.
And so I don't mind bragging just a little bit, but we have sort of been on the leading edge in technology. The federal government was very much interested in doing this. Then there was a governmental change and a change in attitude. There was something called the Fair Elections Act that was brought in, and they sort of went cold feet on ongoing technology.
Okay, so what was the participation rate like in the last provincial election? Because
64%.
Yeah, that seems a little low.
It was 64.4. Like we were pretty much on par. Was it? Surprisingly, to the COVID election.
Okay,
like we thought that the COVID election would be a down cycle. Surprisingly, it was not.
I guess there was a lot of also issues that people were passionate about during that time too. So that probably maybe drove them out the door a little bit.
Yeah, as I mentioned, those lightning rod issues can sometimes be enough to get people motivated and activated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But from what I've seen, I mean, 65, 66, that's pretty much the standard rate of voter turnout.
And we do have a couple of ridings that kind of drift into the 80s. I think Hanwell, Maryland, I think was the highest.
Yeah, and again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but sometimes again, on the Acadian Peninsula, they tend to be showing up with higher numbers. Out west, Caitlin, some of their elections are under 50% or in the 50% range.
Right.
I guess maybe we're doing good
compared
to
knock on wood, and there just are so many factors that can influence it, no matter what we do to advertise and promote and educate for people to know when and where to vote. A lot of other factors contribute on to whether the person is going to take the time out of their day and go vote.
And I guess sometimes, we have these fixed election dates for the provincial anyway, and I guess the other, but I'm talking about provincially. And you have these fixed election dates, but then it's still the prerogative of the premier to call an election whenever. Like sometimes premiers in Canada will call after 2 years or 3 years or when they find the political motivation to do it. But that must be very frustrating from an organizational point of view.
For the longest time, my first election was 2006, back when there was no fixed date.
Right.
And we would, read the newspapers and follow the media coverage and see what the tea leaves were saying, with no idea when we might be going to the polls.
Right.
But we would always have to be in that state of readiness. Like in our warehouse, we already have ballot paper ready for the 2028.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just you have to be in that constant state of readiness. One of the things that we hear a lot when we go and talk to people, they think we only run provincial elections. So then they go, so what are you doing for the next 3 years?
Right.
As that we're all at our desks with our feet up and just waiting. But I mean, the lead up and preparation for each event is intense. And we are on a 2-year cycle now of doing municipal or local government elections, provincial elections. Then we have the by-elections that take place.
Right.
And, again, we're sitting here now waiting for the by-election in Miramichi West.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had that stop-start with Blaine Higgs, too. We thought the newspapers were all saying, "Oh, he could go 6 months early," and I know
our warehouse was fully.
You had to be ready, and it was a bit of a thing. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here for our radio listeners,
yes, we are.
and we thank Paul Harpelle from Elections New Brunswick, and we're going to be back for those listening in podcast. We'll be back in just a moment to continue with a little overtime with Paul and get to know Paul a little better.
Great. Thanks, Paul.
My pleasure.
All right, we're back with Paul Harpelle with Elections New Brunswick. And Paul, when you walked into the college radio station here, you kind of said you're back in the saddle from your old days, not in this particular building, but I guess in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Yeah, I won't give the date, but let's just say when I was at Memorial University and I discovered, I believe the call sign was CHMR. It was the Memorial University radio station.
Oh, nice.
And so I tended to find myself there more so than classes. And I started off, I guess I would say that's where my broadcast journalism career started there. I was doing the DJ thing, but also with the staffing. I was also reading newscasts at the time at the station.
Cool.
So that's where my love for this business developed. So yeah, no, it is a bit of a flashback.
And Paul, people will remember Paul in the Maritimes anyway, as the voice of global news on TV. But where else have you worked, Paul?
So primarily, it has been in New Brunswick. I moved here in '89, and I started with MITV,
yes.
Which was Mr. Irving Television to some people.
Which I would do recall, yes.
Yeah, and we got globalized in, I think it was 1991.
Yes.
And that's when I ended up in Fredericton. But before all that, I did 4 years as a TV reporter in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Right.
And it all started with me as an overnight disc jockey,
yes,
spinning records at a radio station in downtown St. John's, Newfoundland.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you do have a voice for TV/radio. I feel that.
Is this a rock station or what?
Yeah, but I still had to play Anne Murray sometimes.
Oh,
it was,
okay, a little bit of everything.
Gotta have the Canadian content in there.
You had to get your Canadian content, and back in the day, there wasn't the talent pool that we have now.
Uh-huh.
So no, it was. I've enjoyed every aspect of it. I got my hair cut, bought a suit, went to TV, and then the opportunity presented itself. My family was back here in the Maritimes, so that's why the trip, the return to New Brunswick made sense. And then 2004 is when I shifted career paths and moved into the communications field.
Yeah, so you and I kind of worked together in the 90s in reporting, and what were some of your big stories back in those days, Paul?
Well, probably the biggest one I have covered, but it was in Newfoundland, there was an airplane crash where over 200 people lost their lives. It was a military plane in Gander that was on a return flight, and they had landed there for refueling. It's interesting, Tim. I've covered such a wide range, like the Alan Leger escape was was fairly intense and
a big manhunt over many months.
Yeah,
I don't think we've had one like that since then. Really,
nothing is as serious as that.
That kind of lives on
between Miramichi and St. John. I think they finally found him in St. John.
Yeah, I think the great thing about the career, and you would have experienced it, is that every day brought something new to the table. You could be chasing Frank McKenna around at a news conference saying, when are you going to call the next election? Or you could be at a high school or an elementary school where the kids have built cars out of vegetables and they're racing them down these planks. So that was the diversity, I think, was what made it always interesting from my perspective. As I said, you go into work every day, you weren't 100% sure where you would find yourself. You'd talk to the assignment desk and they inform you that you're off to Edmundston, and away you went. And much like the mailman, when the weather was bad, you still had to get out and cover it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I remember the odd tape of you anchoring the news.
I have some anchoring experience, and
I think we break those out at parties, don't we, Paul? I seem to remember
it was a retirement party.
Maybe
extended edition of the podcast.
I remember seeing something at a party where Paul's reading the news. I think, did they break out the tape? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was when the year that I left the business. They put all those great outtakes together, and
is that what it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's even back in the radio days and at the campus radio, people would still light your newscast on fire. Silly things like that happened.
The good old days.
Well, because it'd be the rip and read, and the pages would be so long, right?
Yeah. And I mean, one of the funny stories. For a period of time, I was a photojournalist, which means you do everything by yourself. And I was working on it might have been a holiday Monday, anyhow. My decision and the desk, assignment desk said, okay, let's go to King's Landing. We'll probably find a story there, and you can come back and do that. I drove all the way out there and parked, and I turned around. I'd forgotten my camera back in Fredericton.
No.
and it's really, really hard to.
Yeah.
So
don't have a phone or
that's
a camera on your phone.
That's worse than just realizing you didn't have a tape in your camera. You didn't even have the camera.
Didn't bring the bag.
I was expecting the camera person to have it.
Right. Where is that guy? He should be following me.
Yeah. So no.
Those are back in the days when there were camera people.
Oh, now you just have to do everything by yourself.
You always, the radio guy or the TV guys were always kind of in pairs, right?
Yeah, and you weren't not like today where and I'm holding up my phone again. You had to feed the beast of doing tweets and X's, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't have to worry about that stuff. I just took my little bag cell phone and ran away and did what I had to do.
Yeah.
No.
And of course, the editing process is all different too. Yeah.
I don't think I could do it now. It's all It's all in the cloud and digital. When I left, we were still putting 2 tapes in a machine and putting in points and out points and editing.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
So it's all this linear stuff. Yeah. No. And
or when I worked in radio, you were literally cutting tape.
I remember doing that in Newfoundland. My first gig.
Yeah.
But in 2004, and it saddens me to say that this current state of the industry is not the way I wish it was, because we've seen such a sort of a shrinking in the market and so I worry for people who have come to a radio station like this, or they go to STU and they do a journalism course. Where is their entry point now? Because the spots are fewer,
right?
And I had the benefit of coming in, getting a show at an all-night radio station in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's all taped.
Right.
You might have 2 live people, morning show and drive home.
Right.
Yeah.
So the industry has changed dramatically.
Of course.
That's part of the reason I made the shift in 2004.
Yeah.
And Tim, you were partly responsible for helping me make the migration over to the communication side.
Right.
But that in itself has been an interesting transition, because one of the things that I brought with me was my media background. So when I started working in government departments, I had an idea what the media needed and how to set up to make sure they had what they were looking for. If they needed to have video to sell their to package their story. So intuitively, I had a better sort of that heads up, knowing what they.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they tell you in the journalism department now. As someone who graduated not super recently, but somewhat recently, all of the fellow journalism graduates are now either teachers or communications people. So it's a pipeline. Unfortunately, I think I know there are a couple people that are still in journalism, but by far they're mostly in other fields, and they tell you, they're like, well, yeah, journalism's like a great degree and you can get like a lot of transferable skills, but they're not so much promoting you go into journalism nowadays as they're promoting you with the transferable skills to get into other industries eventually. Right. So
and every bozo has a podcast.
Yeah, I guess that's us. Right? Yeah. The journalism degree to podcast pipeline.
So what you're saying to me is there may be a future after I retire from Elections New Brunswick.
Oh, well, yeah. Maybe we'll hire you on to the podcast area. We need a third,
We even had some people commenting on our most recent post. They were like trying to advertise their own podcast. I'm like, everybody in there. Best friend has a podcast.
There's actually there's people at our office that are always trying to horn in on our podcast. There's like, well, maybe I'll come along today, and maybe I'll sit in, and maybe I'll do this, and everybody likes to talk, right? Yeah. So okay. So anyway, Paul. So you've you made that transition into. And how long have you been at Elections New Brunswick now? It's been like 15 years, hasn't it?
Yeah. So in 06, 08, 10, and 12, I went over basically on loan from the government department I was working with, and then I would go back to the job in the department. In 2012, there was a person that left Elections New Brunswick, and they basically said, we have an opening. Would you be interested in staying? And I said, where do I sign?
Right. Yeah. So you've been there a while, and so that's been good. You've seen a lot, and I think your crew is largely been around for a while, and your head Kim Poppenroth's been there for a few years now. I remember working with her. She was a lawyer in the government, and then she took over Elections New Brunswick, but. She's probably been there 10 years, hasn't she?
8. So the CEO, Kim Poppenroth, is down to her final 2 years and we have actually seen, and I think it's very healthy, we've seen a transition over the last 5 years of some retirements.
Yes.
And that's allowed some new blood to come into the organization. Mm-hmm. I started there, and I was a director of communications by myself, so I was basically director of myself. Now I have a corporate communications officer who works with me, and so we've done a little bit of a growth, but we've also, more importantly, brought in some new people. We moved to a new warehouse headquarters, which is on the north side of Fredericton.
Oh, okay.
Cool. And before,
has your whole operation moved over there?
All under one roof.
I see.
Nice.
Before we had the headquarters was situated in downtown Fredericton. Our warehouse was in the industrial park, the Wilsey.
Yes.
And it was not very good, interaction, because you needed anything, you always had to call a delivery company or take a drive out. So we have a state-of-the-art building that was built to our specs. We have training rooms in there now, so we
you do a lot of training.
Yeah, and we used to always basically have to book the hotel. We can bring now a good chunk of those people into the office, train them there. The warehouse people don't have to pack up gear and bring it all downtown and set it up, because it's all in located at the building. So it's a much more strategic way of doing things, and so no, I think we are positioned well to go forward. There will be more retirements. I mean, I'm probably a couple of years away myself. And
don't say it.
I know.
Do you have any plans after retirement?
Well, what time does your show start?
Read a book, sit by the lake.
Exactly. Yeah, no. So it's a great. I enjoy getting up every day and going to work, because my job includes the outreach component, which means when there's an election, we're talking about the campus voting and coordinating that getting set up. We're dealing with seniors in the special care homes and treatment centers and hospitals. We're dealing with members of the different disability communities. So there's a lot of work that goes into our making sure that everybody is afforded the opportunity to vote and have a access, barrier-free voting experience. So it's a job I really have continue to enjoy.
And speaking of that, that's actually a really good point. Most people don't think about, getting out the vote for the people who don't necessarily have the means to walk to a voting booth, like people in hospital. That must be a complex operation. Do you get to people in jails? Do you
Yep.
What do you even go out and do outreach to homeless populations or?
Yep. So we have what are called additional polls, and those are primarily used at the nursing homes. And our returning officers in each of the ridings districts will contact the facilities in their area, including the hospitals, and find out, first of all, who are your residents and how many wish to vote. And then a special date and time will be set up where we will go on site, go to a common area, set up the equipment. We don't bring the tabulation machine. We have the ballot boxes, and allow anyone who has indicated their wish to vote to do so. There are cases where people are bedridden in hospitals and even in the nursing homes. After they've done that process, then the 2 special voting officers will go bedside. So that's how we kind of handle that. Mm-hmm. Campus voting, we do set up an additional poll. It's a bit more complicated because students are coming from different parts of the province. So we have ballots for the riding that the campus is located in and some of the neighboring ones. But for somebody who may be from northern New Brunswick going to Stewart or Fredericton, UNB, then they will use a write-in ballot to cast the ballot for their contest.
Right.
If they want to do that.
Yep.
The jails, we tend to work with the Corrections Canada and then the local corrections. We send them a special ballot application that the inmate would fill out. It gets back to us, and then a mail-in ballot is sent for those who are incarcerated to fill out and get back to us.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. Tim's just all part of the gig.
Yeah, and one of the things if I can just go on a little bit further, one of the things that we try to promote at each returning office, we have the tabulation machine set up there, which allows people to do an audio vote, and that is somebody that it does Braille. And it also can be done by using a tactile buttons.
Oh, that's great.
And the sip and puff, which is for somebody who's a quadriplegic.
Right.
Wow.
So they sit there, they hear the instructions through their headset independently, and then they can do the whole voting process by themselves and then create a ballot that goes into the tabulation machine. So it's really providing that independent opportunity for somebody who wants to do it by themselves and not necessarily have to count on somebody to come with them and mark the ballot, for them.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow, yeah, that's really cool. I never even thought about all those
All
options.
right. So, if you've been listening to us this far, we're talking to Paul Harpelle with Elections New Brunswick, and don't worry, we don't have a provincial election on the horizon. That's probably that's over 3 years away, but we do have a provincial by-election coming up in Miramichi West, as we discussed this fall, possibly October.
Should be interesting. I mean, that riding always kind of tends to flip-flop a little bit.
Between the Conservatives and Liberals. So we'll see. It should be quite a contest. And then Paul was talking about being prepared for the municipal election.
May 11th of 2026. Yeah.
May 11th of 2026. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to that municipal election, and all kinds of new entities will be electing councillors and mayors and all that sort of thing, and
get out and vote.
trying to get along. So Paul's Mr. Prepared here. He's got his all his stuff laid out, and I think he's well prepared for these elections. What do you think, Caitlin?
Yeah, I think so. He came in with the annual report.
Oh, we didn't even get into the annual report. Paul wanted to flip through that and read to us, I think, like reading time. But
any highlights?
I think he's pretty proud of it. I don't know. It looks like
annual reports take a lot of work.
Could be an audio book,
our
mandates.
Nice 25 pages there. It looks
full color.
Probably translated, and that's good. That's good. All right. Well, anyway, congratulations, Paul, on a successful career, and yes, your entry into podcasting.
We got through it unscathed.
Exactly.
We got to touch base on Paul on his background from Newfoundland to New Brunswick, and we're happy that he's in New Brunswick. So thank you, Paul, for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks,
My pleasure.
Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Get out and vote. Thank you for listening to Soundbite, a production of Porter O'Brien and CHSR 97.9 FM. Special thanks to our podcast host, CHSR, our sound editor, March Rojas Velasquez, as well as Adam Porter, who provided our theme music. You can find all our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts under Soundbite, and you can follow us on Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitter at SoundbiteNB, as well as LinkedIn under Soundbite Podcast.